I am so excited today to introduce comedian Mary Ryan Brown, who is an old friend, one of my first friends in the poetry world, actually. We met during my very first poetry workshop when I was just a lowly sophomore, and I thought she was the coolest person in the world. She just keeps getting cooler. I'm gonna read her bio now. A new and singular voice in comedy, Mary Ryan Brown writes and tells stories that create then disrupt everyday patterns. A wife, mother, and lifelong fan of comedy, Mary Ryan believes in comforting the disturbed, disturbing the comforted, and acting a fool. Mary Ryan holds a master's degree in creative writing with an emphasis in fiction, and she has worked in the branding, marketing, and copywriting industries for nearly a decade. She is a writer first, a comic second, and a silly goose third. Since beginning her unlikely comedy career, Mary Ryan has performed all over the South, from Macomb, Mississippi to New Orleans, Louisiana, and beyond. She has opened for New Orleans comedy legends Carrie B and Mark Caesar and has gone viral on Instagram for a joke she made about men, all in the span of less than a year. We're so thrilled to have you, Mary Ryan. How are you?
I'm so good, Heba, and I'm just so excited to be here. I thought you were the coolest person. You have always succeeded at being the mysterious, quiet girl. Meanwhile, I was the girl in class who would have to sit on my hands so as not to raise them every 90 seconds with some comment about poetry. And you were just always so observant and cool in a way that I could try my whole life and I wouldn't get there. So the feeling was mutual.
So, Tightwires is all about navigating life and writing after grad school. You have a master's, but you were in a PhD program before you left to do this. Can you tell me first a bit more about how you ended up in that program and then how you decided to leave?
Yeah. So my life as a writer has hardly been linear, and I don't think any writer's life has been linear. I attended USM for both my bachelor's and my master's degrees, right? So I got my bachelor's in literature. I graduated in 2016 and then went straight into my master's. And then after I completed my master's in May of 2018, I took a year off. I took like this delayed gap year. And I worked pretty much exclusively as a yoga, spin, and high intensity interval training instructor. So I was a fitness queen for a little while. And after that delayed gap year came to an end, I had stayed really close with the faculty at USM, and I was actually babysitting for one of the faculty members at the time. And she just offhandedly mentioned, you should consider coming back and doing the PhD. And all it took was that tiny flippant comment to get me to fill out an application. I really miss being in the classroom. That's something I valued about USM's Center for Writers, is that all the students there have the opportunity to be graduate teaching assistants and to get a lot of really meaningful time in the classroom and to work in a cohort of people who care about pedagogy and who care about first year writing and just nerds, basically. So let's see. I mean, I adore teaching. That was what I loved about being a graduate student, with the addition of workshop and being in a community of wonderful writers. I had the opportunity to teach world literature, English 101, 102, as well as English 100E, which was an entry-level course for first-year writers, and that was probably my favorite one to teach. So I started the PhD in the fall of 2019. Obviously, COVID happened, and all teaching and instruction moved online, and that rocked everybody's world. For me, I'm such an extrovert. Like I said earlier, I'm the girl who's constantly raising her hand in class and thinking she has something profound to say. And I really love people. I would consider myself an extrovert. And so when COVID happened and everything moved online, especially the teaching, it kind of felt like someone was taking like your favorite food in the world and putting it in a blender and then like blending it up and pouring it in a cat food bowl and being like, you can eat it that way, but only that way. Like the change in formats was really hard for me, as I'm sure it was for everybody. During the spring semester of my first year of the PhD program, I was also working as a pretty booked freelance writer for a branding and marketing company. And the workload got so intense, especially when COVID hit and many companies were pivoting and looking for more online digital marketing services. The workload got so intense that I was offered a full-time position. And I knew that I did not have the bandwidth to continue the PhD, do online instruction and online teaching, and take the full-time job. So I took the job and I put the PhD on hold. Do I think I will return to the PhD? Maybe. Like in some ways, I feel like I've worn out my welcome. I think a lot of like long time, academic train writers feel this way. I would even consider myself an academic train hopper at this point. In other ways, I feel that my grandmother, who was a professor at USM along with my grandfather, I think she'll wring my neck if I don't become the next Dr. Carnes or really like Dr. Brown. So I don't know. I really loved my first year of the PhD program. I have a year of coursework and then dissertation work left. So I don't know. I'm still writing fiction. I'm still reading. I'm grieving that I'm out of the classroom right now. Who knows? My life is not linear as a writer or just as a person. It's been pretty unpredictable. So since I left the program, I took that full-time job. I got married. I had a baby. I started doing comedy. And then most recently, I quit that full-time job. So who knows what I'll do next? Maybe I'll go back to teaching spin classes. Who knows?
Can you talk a bit more about going into comedy? What exactly led you there?
Yes. Okay. So it's funny you say that. A couple of people have approached me and said, I had no idea you were funny. And I'm like, thank you. I don't think I did either. I don't know. I've always been a really big comedy fan. My parents are really, really funny people. And they introduced me to like SNL and the Carol Burnett show and the Muppet show at a young age. And then really the person that I have to credit for this, two people really, my husband and then my very best friend since we were four. Her name is Camille. So Camille and I grew up like writing and performing little skits, and we watched The Amanda Show. Are you familiar with The Amanda Show?
I am.
It's like it was like a sketch comedy show on Nickelodeon, and we loved it. And there was one section of The Amanda Show that was like a spoof drama, and it was called Moody's Point, and it was like kind of a fake One Tree Hill type situation. And Camille and I just thought that was the funniest thing we'd ever seen. Like we just stayed peeing our pants from when we were four, like all the way through high school, which is ironic because Camille is now a urology resident at LSU New Orleans. So she's a full doctor now, but we've remained best friends. We're always laughing and sending each other memes, and just, we kind of have like that annoying best friend language that girls have. And I don't know. After I had my daughter in 2021, I had postpartum depression, and that was obviously difficult. And I would watch comedy specials when I was up late at night trying and often failing to breastfeed my daughter. And I told Camille about what I was doing. I told her, I know this sounds insane, but I get my notebook out and I I transcribe the comedy specials just to see what it feels like to write a good joke. And I told her about this, and she would just text me periodically. She would kind of push me like, hey, you need to write a set of your own. And every month or so, she would kind of be like, have you done it yet? Have you looked at open mics? So it was really having someone in my corner and kind of our own little mini workshop of sorts that we've had since we were children. So it took a year of her bugging me, and then it took a couple of date nights at open mic with my husband where we would go and we would observe, and his encouragement and then my best friends really got me to get on stage. And then I did it once, and I was like, I believe I'm mentally ill enough to continue doing this. I love it so much.
That's so great. It's so great to have somebody in your corner like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have a great like community of writing friends. And I think if we didn't, we would just like sink back into our little shells. So
Absolutely. One thing I love about comedy, about storytelling in general, but especially comedy, is its ability to build bridges and connections between people who might otherwise never connect. There's
Yes.
this, yeah, and there's this intrinsic loneliness and desire to be understood, which is especially the case when you're marginalized in any way. But there's also this weird resistance to it, and comedy cuts through that resistance because so much of comedy, so much of humor writing in general is about shocking people and surprising them. When you're looking at ways to surprise people, there's always going to be a line. And so often it's easy to fall on the wrong side of that line. And so I guess my question to you is first, how do you make sure you don't fall on the wrong side of that line? And then what responsibility do you think comedians have to larger social issues?
Yes. And this is a tough question because shock isn't enough, right? Content isn't enough. Structure and delivery have so much more to do with the connection and sort of magic that you feel about a joke, than content does. Not to say that content and subject matter are obsolete. And again, it's very strange to like dissect what makes a joke funny when we all know you hear a fart noise and it's funny, right? We kind of it's very weird to sort of academically look at how a joke works. I've thought about this a lot. The line, it's difficult because I've crossed it before. Like I certainly have. And you learn that testing things out at open mics. And you learn that putting your head on the pillow at the end of the night and seeing if you can fall asleep or not based on what you've said and how you've made people feel. So the great thing about comedy is that when it's done well, it can disarm us. Like it can disarm even the most polarized, like radicalized people. And you definitely get really polarized audiences in a town like Hattiesburg, Mississippi. That's a university town, but also like Hattiesburg, Mississippi, it's Mississippi. So the great thing about humor is that it can disarm all types of people and allow us to consider other possibilities, to inhabit the absurd, to turn an idea on its head and to transform our own like closely held, unexamined opinions. So that said, I don't think that like all comedians have or feel that responsibility. However, for me as an individual, as a person of faith and as a Christian, I definitely feel a responsibility to shed light on social issues, both on and off stage, right? Both aloud and silently and privately. I want to make sure everyone feels welcome and accepted and free to laugh at others and themselves at my shows. Comedy is like this suspended space where in America, we're stretching the limits of the First Amendment to like the nth degree. But we're in this kind of suspended space where, especially as a woman, if you're like, hey, that's not funny, they're like, well, you just don't get comedy, right? So it's an interesting space. When I have the mic, I want to push boundaries. I want to say the opposite of what I mean, just to get a laugh, Like ultimately, I want to entertain, but I don't want to hurt anybody in the process. I want the language to be sharp and I want it to be shocking and I want it to be layered, but only if it's kind of disturbing the comfortable and comforting the disturbed, like good art should. I think that no matter what your vocation is, no matter what you're doing, if you're a writer, if you're a comic, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, your values are going to determine the degree to which you feel responsible for your actions toward a kinder world. So I'm always trying to interrogate my values and be careful, but also be brave.
What challenges have you faced in transitioning from academia to comedy? And how have you navigated them?
That is such a good question. So really what it comes down to is I did have someone say to me one time, you don't really perform comedy. You just kind of do little monologues and stories, which I'm like, yeah, I love to talk about myself, of course. And like comedy is storytelling. But I have found that sometimes my jokes are a little too writerly. Like think of the like most stuck up like academic New York comics. Like sometimes I try to write like they do. So I think my jokes can be a little too academic. And I think that my writing, I'm always like, when I'm writing fiction, which I still write fiction every day, I'm always like looking for a punchline. And it's like, it's just a paragraph. There doesn't need to be a punchline in every paragraph, or really arguably any or many paragraphs in fiction. So it's a weird, like, kind of switching that you have to do between the two. And just because you're a good writer or you're a practiced writer, an experienced writer, doesn't necessarily mean that your stage presence is that great. I notice I'll tell a joke for the first time and I've written it, but I've never told it in public before, and I tell it with so much excitement. And then the next week I'll go back to open mic to like clean that joke up a little. But because I've said it before, I'm bored with it. And it like the audience can tell I'm bored with it and it won't land. So you're having to constantly like Frankenstein your own jokes and like wake them up again. Whereas when you write something, it's more static, right? Like if it's a great sentence, it's going to be a great sentence forever. But a joke can hit one week and not the next. And it's all about how you bring it to life in that moment. So that's kind of been a challenge. I've had to let go of some of my like stuffy academic nature. But then since I'm still writing every day and still have dreams of being published on the fiction side, retaining my librarian demeanor as well. Thank you, New Orleans. It is an honor and a white privilege to be here tonight.
It is so good to see you. I have to say, it is an honor and a white privilege.
So you talked a bit about performance. So let's look at the performance questions now.
Yeah.
We have an audience question from Eric Wilder, who is a mutual friend and boss.
And he's the best. And we love him.
He said, hi to you both first. So hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
And he asks, do you ever have stage jitters? If so, how do you deal?
Yes, I do have jitters. I never want to do it. Like when Thursday rolls around, which is the day of weekly open mic, I'm like, why do I do this? You should go on a silent retreat. You should, this is the worst. Why do you want to pursue comedy? And I'm always nervous. But the thing about me is, and I think a lot of writers and artists can relate to this, I kind of like self-inflicted suffering. I mean, if you look at my hobbies, which are stand-up comedy, long distance running, yoga, and fiction writing, like those aren't exactly instant gratification type hobbies. Like there's a degree of like inherent shame and embarrassment and struggle in all of them. So I think there's part of me that like maybe kind of likes to struggle a little bit, finds a little, maybe that's really Puritan of me. I don't know, but I like all that stuff. I do have jitters, and I'm about to sound like Gwyneth Paltrow, okay? And I'm worried that I'll sound like Gwyneth Paltrow, but when I do get up to perform, I try to think of it as an offering rather than a performance. And I know that that is like super cheesy, but if it's an offering, I am going to give it everything I have, and I'm just abandoning any dream of getting something in return. If it's an offering, I can like be shameless and I don't have to worry about how I look and all the different angles. I can just like give of myself in that moment. If it's a performance, I feel like I'm being graded. And as a former gifted kid, I love a grade, but there are no grades in comedy. There's kind of only laughs. And in order to get those laughs, like you have to connect and you have to give. And if I bomb, which happens and like happens more frequently than I'd like to admit, I do also have to remember that like the only person who's going to sleep thinking about it with their butt cheeks clenched together real tight is me. Nobody else is going to sleep thinking about how I bombed. And if they are, they need to find something cooler to think about. So yes, I get jitters all the time. I'm nervous. I'm nervous right now, but you just do it anyway.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, because my problem whenever I'm speaking is my voice shakes a lot. And so I've always like wondered how people deliver stand up, and especially like if you have to remember so much, it's probably a lot harder. So what are your best performance tips?
Well, first of all, I don't think your voice shakes. I think you have a wonderful voice. My best performance tips. So I go back and watch my stuff a lot. And my parents are so supportive. They come to like every single one of my shows that they can. And my mom holds up her phone and records me so that I can go back and watch my stuff and for content, duh. But like, it's really good to have sort of a record of how I've evolved as a performer. The big thing I would say is when you're standing up and speaking, whether in a comedy or an academic context, any context really, is to take up space. And that's one thing that I was afraid to do. I noticed I crossed my arms a lot. I would like jut my hips forward and cross my arms. I would gravitate toward the mic stand too much or toward the stool, when really the physicality of it will actually lend you confidence if you do the absurd thing of sort of like taking a wide stance and like kind of man spreading, just kind of like taking up space. That's one thing. The second thing is to slow down. I've noticed that. Definitely slow down, wait for timing, wait for reactions. Like in my mind, the little mantra I say before I get on stage is I'm the captain now from Captain Phillips. Like you are the emotional and energetic manager of that room. And you move that energy around, right? I know that sounds like Gwyneth Paltrow too. Also, like there's no substitute for practice. You must practice, and I practice. In the mirror with a hairbrush. You have to have a hairbrush. It has to be a cool hairbrush, and you've just got to practice over and over because sometimes I've noticed when I'm practicing, I'm really into it, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like really animated, and then I get on stage and I try to be all cool, but like cool isn't funny. Authenticity is funny, right? And like me authentically, I'm a goober. And so the more I can like be myself and be a goober on stage, take up space, own it. People kind of want to be taken care of in a comedy setting. Like people want to know that you're there to make them laugh, and they don't want to feel like responsible for you or your emotions. If you're like, I'm sorry guys, I'm just kind of off tonight. Like people will turn on you so fast. It's better to just be absurd and to take care of people when you're up there. But it takes a lot of practice. And like last night I did okay, so it's always different. And sometimes I do great. And other times I'm like, I should just take a job as a medical scribe or something that requires no personal interaction at all because this was bad. So yeah, I love to talk, Hiba. You know this, and I think my like need for attention is greater than my fear of messing up. So yeah, I don't know. Just take up space and know what you're gonna say.
So we got an audience question from your mom asking, what are you thinking when you're not talking? Which is actually a really interesting question. I'm dying to know.
Okay, so that's funny, Mom, because she knows this about me. I'm never not talking. When I am not talking, I'm mostly thinking about Meadow, my daughter, and Andrew, my husband, and what happens after we die. I think about that a lot. I also think about just really vain stuff. Like mostly if I'm not talking, I'm like, should I get lip filler? Should I change the color of my hair? Like just dumb stuff. But my mom's trolling me with that question. She knows I'm talking all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Do you ever get hecklers, and how do you deal with that when you do?
Yes, I love hecklers. That means they don't feel too sorry for you. That means you're not just an abject failure and that they're willing to play along. My favorite hecklers are like the creative ones. I really like the creative ones. If people are drunk, that's also okay because I will just try to ask them an absurd question. I'll just be like, do you want to be buried or cremated? Or I'll try to ask them like a sobering, weird question. If someone just won't stop, I just threaten to start my period on command. And that usually like freaks them out enough that we just move on. But no, I love hecklers. I love being in conversation with people. I think some of the funniest moments have definitely come out of heckling. I really like heckling dudes that think they're really cool. If like there's a lot of young college girls that come to the shows, and like I can never say anything mean to them. I'm always like, you're so cool. I'm kind of afraid of you. What products do you use in your hair? Like that's how I'll usually talk to them. And if they're a guy, then I just try to guess things about their personality or their habits. And I'm sometimes right, and I can tell when I'm right. So I love being heckled, because if you're not being heckled, that means people just want your set to be over and they are tired of you, or like they pity you for how terrible you're doing. So if you can get the crowd involved, I think that's great. Now, when people start wanting to have a therapy session, or like they want to tell a story, but they don't have the microphone, sometimes I'll be like, here, switch places with me and you can get up here and tell your jokes. And then they're like, oh, I feel weird now. And I'm like, well, I feel weird all the time. So here we are. But I like having little conversations with people. Now, sometimes I will freeze up and then I'll go home and I'll be getting in bed and I'll think of a comeback then. And I'll be like, well, this is useless. The moment's over. I have the best comeback ever, but I'm in my jammies and that person's at their house now and the show is over. So.
What do you know now that you wish you'd known when you started?
Not to talk about myself too much, I say, as I've talked about myself for 30 minutes. Not to talk about myself too much, that not every detail matters. And I'm a detail person as a writer, you know, but jokes are a different beast. They're very, you know, especially as a fiction writer, jokes are really more like poetry, and placement matters. You want them lean, you want them tight, you want to laugh every 15 seconds. I wish I had approached the mic from the outset with the desire to entertain rather than the desire to gain the approval of strangers. So just sort of reorienting what it was. I went up there needing something in the beginning, and now I try to go up there giving something, if that makes sense.
What has been your proudest moment or achievement in your comedy career so far?
Yes. So, I mean, I'm at the beginning, and career is a funny word. I mean, this is definitely something I would love to be a full-time career one day. My proudest moments would probably be opening for Mark Caesar in New Orleans at the Comedy House. It was 2 sold-out shows, and they were just incredible shows with great people. I have friends. My best friend Camille lives in New Orleans. A bunch of my other best friends live there. And so to have like all my girls together in one place, my family, my husband's family, friends I haven't seen in years come to that show. I mean, that was incredible, especially the 9 o'clock show. That energy was just perfect. And then I've also booked a show at the Dallas Comedy Club in June. So that's my biggest booking to date. I'm very excited about that. I would say the happiest moment though, and the moment that I will never forget, the moment that's made it all be worth it, is I did a 20-minute completely clean set at my grandmother's 83rd birthday party at her independent living facility. And so there were about 30, you know, much older women in there. I didn't even have a microphone or anything. I had to yell, but they were such good sports. And like we joked about death, we joked about memory loss, we joked about adult diapers. They were so participatory, and they've invited me back. And that was my whole family was there. I mean, that was like the peak of what I think comedy can do, is like bring people of all ages together and let us laugh at ourselves, laugh at being human. These women told amazing stories. I mean, I didn't have any hecklers. I just had like amazing responses. So that was probably like the best moment of my career so far. I can't wait to go back to the Claiborne. If any other nursing homes want to hire me, I would love to come to you.
I don't think I've ever heard of any nursing home doing that. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out old people are people and they do like to laugh. And I think often we like sort of patronize our elders, you know, especially in America. Like we put our parents and grandparents in like separate places, and we kind of like put that off and we patronize or infantilize them. And like they want to joke, I promise. And they want to be a little a little edgy too. So it was really fun.
That's awesome. Let's talk a bit about crafts. And I'm really excited about this because I'm actually working on a novel about like an aspiring comedian who is like a teenager because it's a YA novel. And I started writing it and I got to the point where she actually has to do a stand-up routine. And then I was like, I have no idea how to do this. So I'm very excited to hear about your process and how you go about all that.
Yes. Oh, that is so exciting. That's such a cool topic for a novel. I would have read that. I will read it, but like as a kid, I totally would have read it and become 10 times more annoying for having read it. I would have started my career way earlier if I knew as a teenage girl that that was like a possibility. So craft. So a lot of it is stories from my life. I mean, I have the immense privilege of having like a very interesting, fun family, and we're all very open with each other, perhaps too open, and we're like oversharers and, you know, super sensitive. So there's always something fun that I can draw from my family. Parenthood has definitely made me a better comic, and I love joking about that. It's strange. I'm trying to think. So I do a lot of my writing in the sauna, which again is a very Gwyneth Paltrow thing to say, but I get in the sauna at my gym every day, and for 30 minutes I just sweat and write material. I've never like told anyone that before, but that is how I write my jokes. So I kind of like the pressure of it because it's like really warm in there, and you're like it's intense. Your heart rate's kind of higher, but it's also really insulating and calming. So yeah, I try to write like one observational joke, one narrative joke, and then like one absurd joke or culture joke every day. So observational is harder for me because I just like to talk about myself. So like orienting that lens outward and being like, oh man, what's the deal with bookends? What's the deal with chaise lounges? Like that's a little harder for me. And then taking stories from my life that I used to feel sorry about myself for, and turning them into something funny. I love doing that. And then like pop culture jokes. I made a joke last night that white women, what was it? I wrote it like 2 minutes before going on stage. White women are out here trying to defund the police by taking their husband's credit cards or something. So I'll try to like do more pop culture stuff, but it's mostly just storytelling stuff. And a lot of it never sees the light of day. It just stays in the sauna. But you know how it is as a writer, like you just kind of have to keep the pen moving on the paper. But I have like 40 typed pages of single space like content. Yeah.
How long did it take you to write your first set? And how many sets have you written?
Countless sets. I've written a lot of sets. And, you know, it's kind of like organizing a poetry collection. Like, what's going to go first? You know, it has to be something big, something like that will garner the audience's trust at first. But then you have to have like sort of a narrative arc to it, right? So the structure of it, which joke's going to go where, how are they going to build? How am I going to create a pattern and then disrupt a pattern? All of that's really difficult. It probably took for my first set, I started writing it on a Monday night. You know, I would put Meadow down and I would write like an hour a night. So Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then Thursday night, I performed it. And that was like a 5-minute set where I talked about, it was mostly about vaping, to be honest. I mean, it was going back and looking at it now, and I never moved the mic stand. I'm just holding the mic stand. I mean, I was terrified. Yeah, so about 3 hours for my first set. But now I just spend about 30 minutes a day doing it.
Do you ever revise sets after you perform them based on like the audience's response?
Yes, 100%. And it's heartbreaking. It's like the whole idea of killing your darlings or whatever. Because like I have some jokes that I think are so funny and like nobody else likes them. So there was a joke recently that I've been doing one way and it's been getting a couple of laughs, but then I changed it to something that I thought was kind of hack, to be honest. Like I thought it was kind of unoriginal, but I changed like two examples and now people love it. So, I mean, not to say like, oh, they just don't have good taste. Sometimes I'm just blind to my own like self-indulgent writing. So, yes, I revise all the time, all the time. And sometimes my mom and my husband, they will revise for me. They'll be like, oh, you should do it this way. And they're often right. So,
Are they also funny?
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes. So, my husband's super funny. He is just afraid, or he doesn't like public speaking. So, he is definitely, and he's very truthful. So, he will tell me, like, that's not lean enough. That's really just a story. It doesn't have a punchline yet. So he's very much helped me write good jokes. And then yeah, my parents are a riot. I mean, they're so funny. So everyone in my family is funny. I have a little brother that I really hope does it someday. I'm not going to push him too hard, but I really think he would be great. And he watches some of the best like absurd comics there are, and I can see him doing something like that. But yeah, I'm very blessed to have a very, very funny family and very funny friends. Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the process? And what's your least favorite?
I mean, I love epiphanies when they happen. I really love epiphanies. I love when I get a detail right or I see something in a new way. That's probably my favorite. And then when I've sort of delivered the joke safely from like to the crowd and I feel like, okay, I can breathe now. That's always nice when I write it and I think it's good and then I perform it and I know it's good. That's such a gift and it doesn't happen every week. It definitely doesn't happen every week. And then my least favorite part is bombing, feeling like I've disappointed people, feeling like I've lost my spark. Because one thing for me that I mean, I've had the immense privilege of is I had a lot of like relative success early on. I mean, a lot of people they go to open mics for years and they have to like work their way up. I think I had this beginner's luck where people were like, especially in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I was one of the only girls getting up there and doing it. And the fact that I could like approximate a couple of good jokes, people were like, oh, that's funny and kind of different. And so I had this beginner's luck. And then audiences will kind of like low key turn on you if you plateau. And there definitely was a few months in, I feel I plateaued. And I was also like going through some health stuff and, just like stress, just the stress of life. And I don't think I was as funny for a couple of months. And so dealing with that, feeling like I've disappointed an audience or really messed something up or hurt somebody's feelings or, made a fool of myself, that stuff's really hard. But that's kind of, part of it when you are getting up and saying things into a microphone every week. So.
And how do you, once those things happen, how do you bring yourself to perform again after that? I feel like I would really struggle.
Oh, I can't wait to perform again after because then I can kind of prove myself. I can't wait to like get back up and do it again. I never want to end on a bad note. And also like at this point I'm pretty comfortable with shame. I'm pretty comfortable with like self-inflicted struggling. So I mean it's just part of it. Every job has like a terrible side to it, I love being a teacher. I sometimes hated grading papers, but that's like part of it. I love being a comedian, but sometimes I bomb, sometimes I feel misunderstood. That's the hard part. Like you remember being in middle school and thinking something you were doing was really cool and then like nobody else got it and like you didn't even get bullied for it. People just didn't acknowledge it. Like ouch, that hurts, So, but every job kind of has like an underbelly to it. So
how do you balance the creative and business side of being a comedian?
that's a very good question. I think because I've worked in business, because I've worked in marketing and branding, Mondays are my admin days. So those are the days that I'm like sending out queries to clubs. Those are the days I'm like emailing people about collaborations. Whatever I need to do administratively, I just do on Mondays. So I kind of like block my time for different days. Tuesday is a creative day. So Tuesday is where I'm writing and where I'm like writing out concepts for videos I might want to try, where I'm writing even more fiction. I write fiction every day, but I write a greater amount. And then Wednesdays are days that I rehearse, right? Thursdays are days that I perform. And then Fridays are days that I evaluate. So I go back and watch my own work. I give myself notes like a weirdo. And then I do like updates to my website. So I find that, and I learned this pretty early on in writing that you have to separate those things and you have to do the admin side just as diligently as you do the creative side. And people respect that. I think it gives you an edge when you can prove to people, whether you're writing or doing comedy or whatever kind of artist you are, when you can prove to people you're not just a sad, drunk, starving artist, people tend to really appreciate that. So, yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who might be considering a similar career transition?
Oh my goodness. Be comfortable with failing, definitely. And like, this is not it wasn't really like a mindful transition that I made. Circumstances in my life kind of led me to take a full-time job and to leave the graduate program. And I'm quite happy that I did. I'm actually really happy that I did. But, kind of like I said before, I think your values determine more than your vocation does. So, center on your values, whatever they are, sort of focus on those and then allow that to lead you toward whatever career path you might take. And that might, be being a mom, that might be being a barista. A lot of gifted kids end up in that barista pipeline. It might be moving to high school teaching, whatever it is. I think you're being like secure in your values and aligning your actions with those is a lot more important than finding like the dream career. And I wish I had known that when I took a full-time job, that like that wasn't going to solve all of my problems either. So yeah, be willing to fail, be willing to adapt, to try something new, and then be willing to do work that perhaps you think is beneath you, Like when I was a yoga teacher, it's not just standing up at the front of the class and telling people what to do, it's cleaning their yoga mats too. So I would say be willing to do work that you consider beneath you as well. And be okay with it being like a labyrinth, not a, just straight line. So, and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay.
Thanks so much, Mary Ryan. This was amazing.
Oh, thank you, Hiva. I just love you. I really, really do.
I think it's mutual. Is there anything else you want to tell our viewers about like where to find you, upcoming shows?
Yes. So I have a website. It's maryryanbrown.com. I would love for you to sign up for my email newsletter. That's how I like to engage with all of you. And if you email that newsletter back, I will respond to you. I will talk to you. That's where I update people with my shows. And I also do a little bit of like fun, non-fictional, speculative kind of creative writing through those emails as well. I do have an upcoming show in Dallas, Texas. So if Hiba has any wonderful Tightwires viewers in Dallas, Texas, I will be at the Dallas Comedy Club Thursday, June 22nd at 7 and 9 p.m. So that's going to be a really fun show. I'm excited about that. And yeah, I'm on Instagram as Mary Ryan Brown. So maryryanbrown.com, Mary Ryan Brown on Instagram. And that's about it. That's all I'm doing right now.